ladies and, well, gentlemen, guys, dudes who might actually listen to us. We know there's no ladies listening to us.
That one dude.
Yep.
Hey, dude, what's up? It's us again here at the Bunny Rabbit's Hole. Now, of course, as you know, if you listened before, if you don't know, I'm one of the co-hosts. My name is Jason, and this is...
My name is Craig.
All right, so now that we got the pleasantries underway, what do we do here at the Bunny Rabbit's Hole? What we do is we take a central theme each and every week. We talk about this theme until something inspires us to talk about something else. When we talk about that other thing, we'll keep talking, and keep talking, and keep going and going and going and going and going. So that gets boring as fuck, and then Craig slaps the virtual shit out of me, and then we go back to the beginning. Even when he's the one doing the rambling, sometimes he still slaps me, and we still go back to the original theme, and then we continue on.
Right. And as Jason says, we research both sides of the subject, not just what fits our narrative. And we include our opinions, and this is for entertainment. So if you're easily offended, you're probably going to want to leave now, because we say fuck, we say shit, we say damn, we say other things too.
And we say that bad word.
Which one?
Ooh. No, we try not to. We've learned our lesson. We try not to go too political, but sometimes we just can't help but take a jab.
Yeah, it's all about injecting disinfectants and ultraviolet rays into your body.
COVID.
All right, so yeah, we'll get off that, because that's just too deep a level of stupid for me to deal with
today. It is. Okay, I just want to throw this out there before we get off of that topic, because you brought it up. You're right, America and the world. He did not actually say you should inject disinfectants like Lysol into your bloodstream because it will clean your lungs. What he actually did was he asked the question if it was possible to use a disinfectant like injecting it into yourself to see if it would help clean your lungs, which is far worse than actually telling somebody to inject it, because he actually found out in front of a live studio audience, in front of the entire world, in a world press briefing about the COVID virus and how healthy America is, that there is, in fact, a dumb question.
I think he should be the first person to try it.
Right. Jesus Christ. Almighty, help us, Jeebus, the universe, Yahweh, Yoda, whoever you pray to.
Satan.
All right. So, with that underway, we're going to talk about something completely different. Craig, lead us down that path.
All right. Tonight we are going to talk about a show that Jason and I watched, and we both actually kind of enjoyed. It's on Hulu. If you have Hulu, if not, you can probably find it on other streaming services. It's called
There's a couple seasons on Amazon.
Okay. Yep. So it's on Amazon Prime. It's on Hulu. It's called The Deadfiles.
Yes.
You heard Jason and I talk about these ghost hunting shows and these paranormal shows, and
you mean like Ghost Adventures, Ghost Nation, Paranormal Lockdown, Fact or Fake, Most Haunted, Ghost Brothers, Kindred Spirits, Ghost Hunters International, Paranormal Witnesses, The True Terror, Monster Hunter, Ghost Hunters Academy, A Haunting, Ghost Asylum, Ghost Mine, Most Haunted Towns, Paranormal State, Haunted Collector, Ghost Lab, Celebrity Ghost Stories, Haunted Highway, Deep South Paranormal, and of course, my personal favorite, Haunting Australia.
Oh, but
I got like 15 more, but I'm going to stop right there because it was getting old.
You missed the one that we talked about before, the BuzzFeed one.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, okay. I didn't say that one. And, of course, we mention the infamous Zach Baggins' show on here all the time, so we're not going to talk about Ghost Adventures or all the little spin-off shows that he has.
Right. So, in Deadfiles, it's basically three people. There's two main people, and then a third guy who is the one guy. Okay. Main guy's name is Steve. He's a retired homicide detective.
Yes.
His partner's name is Amy. She is a psychic, a medium, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And then there's her husband, And it's really interesting because when they go to investigate, they usually contact Steve and they tell him what's going on. Then so he'll go in, he'll interview the family and all that, and then at night, Amy's husband will come through, goes through the house, remove any personal items or anything like that, pictures of the family, religious items, anything that might influence
Even
her
like dream
perception.
catchers, he'll pull shit like that off the walls.
Yep. So he tries to basically sterilize the house from anything except for the paranormal. So she can go in and not pick up the energy from these other things, but pick up the energy of the spirits that are haunting the home.
Mm-hmm.
Which is it's cool. It's interesting. And you know, Jason and I, you know us. We want to believe.
Yes.
Because we do believe in it.
And we both if you listen to our ghost stories episodes, we both have had what we believe were encounters. Yeah. We've talked about people that we know that have had encounters. Yep. So you're right. We want to believe, but these shows make it hard to believe sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah.
What I like about this one is the only time that I have actually seen anything paranormal was when Steve was interviewing one of the guys, and he showed him a video he got on his phone of a drawer opening on its own.
Oh wow.
But that's all you see. When Amy's going through her walkthrough, she talks about the spirits. She talks about, I feel like either they're trying to get in me or blah blah blah. But there's no music or no, hey, did you hear that sound? Or it sounds like it said this. None of that shit.
Right. Right.
So she goes through and just go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say the one thing that I do appreciate about this show, because like you said, that they, he's a retired homicide detective, and then she's a psychic / medium. But when she shows up, because all the stuff is done, if you watch enough episodes, it's not the same bullshit. It's not, ooh, I'm sensing a woman with blonde hair. Do you know a woman with blonde hair? Does anybody in the room know a woman with blonde hair? Well, of course, somebody knows a woman with blonde hair. And she's only talking to her husband / cameraman at this time.
Yeah.
And she just starts talking. Okay. She's not cold reading anybody. She's just talking to, now, devil's advocate point. This part could have been scripted. We don't know. But it's set up really well to where she just walks into the home and just starts sensing energy.
Yeah. And interesting thing, too, on top of that, is her and Steve, throughout the entire investigation, do not talk until they sit down with the family for the reveal.
Exactly. Now, when she does her whole thing, she walks through, they videotape it, so they get footage of her saying different things at different places in the house. Like she'll walk in a room, it's like, oh, whoa, somebody died here. I'm sensing back in the 20s or 30s, and then they'll play those clips later. But at the end of it, she always sits down with a sketch artist.
Right.
And they always do a sketch of what she sees as the spirit that's bothering them, or the demon that's bothering, because it's never just a spirit. It's not grandma that's stuck in the closet that wants to pass on, to move on, not pass on. She's already passed on. She wants to move on. But it's more than just that.
Right.
I mean, fuck, she had there was the one episode where she was pretty much talking about goddamn gremlins.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so she has a sketch artist draw up what they do, and then they seal that in an envelope.
Yeah.
And then,
when they sit down to the reveal and they talk about the stuff, then they open it up.
Let's talk about him for a second.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the part that I enjoy, the dichotomy between the two sides, because she's walking in, and what a lot of people saying is she's just spewing fucking nonsense. Right. Oh, really? This happened this year? Well, he goes and investigates the house, the property, the area, and he goes back and finds not only what he can find at the local library, he'll find experts about it. Like the one episode in particular, and this happened to quite a few, but there's one that we'll talk about here in a while. He actually goes out and finds somebody who wrote a book about a murder that happened in a home that the people didn't even know happened.
Right.
So he really, really thoroughly investigates.
Yeah, and he doesn't just go in there and go, "Oh, I believe you." He like there was one episode where there's a teenage boy in there, and he goes to the kid. He's like, "Okay, don't fuck with me. Are you taking drugs or anything like that?" And the kid's like, "No." He's like, You're sure?" And the kid's like, "No, I'm not. This is the." Or like one episode where they heard bangings in the walls. He's like, "This is kind of an old house. Don't you think it could maybe be the pipes?" And they're like, "No, it's not the pipes." So he actually hires a plumber to come in and check out the house to see if it could possibly be the pipes.
Right. In another episode, there was they kept hearing a scratching sound, and so he hired an exterminator.
Right. So he's not just taking things at their word. He's actually investigating, but he's doing more of the physical and background investigating.
Yeah,
She's
he's
doing
doing
the
the physical and
paranormal.
historical,
Right. Yeah.
and then she's
So
doing the spiritual and metaphysical and paranormal.
right. Yeah. So basically, how the episodes will break down is, and we'll start with like we decided to start with season 8, episode 5 because it was about skinwalkers, and we did a whole episode on skinwalkers. So why not start there?
Right.
So it starts out with Steve. He's called to this home. He goes there and he's talking to the people, and he's asked them what's going on, and why they're staying there. They moved there because their dad's really sick, and they're staying there to take care of the dad. And they like some of the things that happen. They said they've seen a fan thrown across a room. They see shadow figures all the time, all over the house. And shadowy figures is something that is a theme that's throughout this entire season.
Yes.
Like the one lady said that she was just sitting there watching TV and she felt a hand touch her arm, and there was nobody else in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And then it'll flash away from there and break from Steve and go to Amy on her walkthrough, and she'll be walking through areas of the house, and she's like, "This feels like a gateway to hell." And then she says, "There's a skinwalker here, and it will reveal himself to the living, and they'll see just a tall, huge shadow."
Mm.
Then it goes back to Steve, and he's talking to the youngest daughter that moved out of the house with this really freaky voice that drove me nuts.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was gonna say that because she.
Every time I give it, and every time I do it.
Like, talk, bitch. Open your goddamn mouth and use the words.
Yeah. So, she was like, she said she was talking on her mother's phone, and she looked up, and on the ceiling saw this like big, giant, spider-like creature that was just pure black.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other color to it. It's just black. Flashes back to Amy, and she says, "It's always watching them. And it takes on dead people's forms and dead relatives," and goes back to Steve, and they're revealing that, yeah, I've seen my dead grandfather, I've talked with him, blah, 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 and then they're like, and then they talking to Steve, he's like, "Well, what else happens?" He's like, "Well, the bed shakes a lot." And then flashes to Amy as she walks into the room, and she's like, "It likes to mess with them in here. It will shake the bed." And so then she goes outside, and she just has these visions of this. She's like, it's like a church somewhere in the area, and it was some sort of church revolt. Flashback to Steve, who's now he's away from the family, doing his historical background checks, finds out that a rebel pastor had led an armed revolt on the church that kicked him out.
Right. So, I mean, okay. Now, here's the parts that I wanted to touch on this. Now, in the little town that I grew up in, there was always these urban legends of what happened in the spooky house.
Right.
Oh, that house, the lady was killed. In this town that they live in of Hardinsburg, Indiana.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you think that a preacher's revolt, where one church fights another church, and then this church leaves, and then, well, we haven't got to the part. You haven't got to that part. But don't you think that kind of folklore would be just commonplace in the
Oh
town?
yeah, yeah. It seems like everybody would know about it.
Yeah,
Everybody would
so
always
we're
be
talking
talking.
like Hatfields and McCoys. We're not talking about two neighbors in a pissing match over a fence.
Right,
We're talking about two rival churches.
right. Oh, and so I mean, you go ahead and explain that because I don't have a lot of notes on that whole church revolt. So if you got more to it to add to it, go for it.
So the one so the one church pastor was accused of being a heretic. Okay, and him and his congregation didn't take kindly to the other one, so they went and boarded up the other church, and then the police and everything got involved, or the marshals got involved, and then they pushed them out where they're supposed to kick them out of their church, which they ended up doing. But instead, he pulled his whole congregation onto his property and continued to teach, like in this clandestine manner, on the property that these people lived on,
Right,
because that was his property, or his home was on this property at one point in time.
right,
And that's the part that I find weird, that he obviously found the information, but my little town had a hotel, and it was famous for duck dinners, and they had a duck farm. And right now, it's the hotel and the duck farm was on the same site as where the middle school is today. And there was this mineral spring that came out of there, and people flocked from around the world to bathe in this shit. And now it's just a toxic wasteland instead. But everybody knew the story about the hotel and the duck farm. You get duck dinners at the hotel.
right,
How come they didn't know about this story?
right. Well, and I mean, but to flip the opposite side of that, when you bought your house, did you do any historical background check on it?
No, but we did fucking find out that it was haunted.
Yep. Same here. I didn't. I'm like, oh, I like it. Let's get it. But luckily I can keep the bad ones out, and the good ones are in.
Yeah.
So this is where it gets really interesting too. So while Steve's doing his background check, he finds out that in January of 2000, like there was this troubled kid, and he got violent at his mom, so his mom sent him to live with his dad. And he hated his stepmom, and all of a sudden she came up missing, and then they found her body, and he had strangled her.
Mm.
Now you flash back to Amy, and she says she feels a female voice. She says there's a female, and she's crying, and she's missing something. And then all of a sudden she just gets neck pain.
Mm.
So flashback to Steve in 1979. There was a car accident just like 100 yards down the road from this house, where a car accident, it involved two people, and it landed on top of Randy, the 16-year-old kid, killing him instantly. Flashback to Amy, and she says, right up the road here, there was a car accident somewhere between 1970 and 1990. She said it involved being a male. His legs are shaking. He's feeling weak. But she said what the skinwalker will do is it will steal the souls of people that are dying.
Mm.
So the skinwalker was over top of Randy and stole Randy, So I'm like, just the accuracy. I mean, she's usually within 20 years.
Yeah.
With her dates.
She'll give a range, but it's pretty damn close. Now, we did do an episode about the skinwalkers, but I just want to kind of do kind of a quick rehash.
Okay.
We're talking about them there. In the Navajo culture, a skinwalker is a type of harmful witch who has the ability to turn into, possess, or disguise as an animal. Now, more powerful ones actually have the ability to transform into different humans. take on the shape, the form that they currently possess. Now, something interesting that she says in this particular episode was this skinwalker is collecting dead.
Mm-hmm.
So, meaning that the more of these souls it was possessing, the more powerful it is. And now we've already heard of the preacher, we've heard of the stepmom, now we've heard of this boy. So there's at least 3 souls that it has.
And I'm about to add number 4 here. In September of 1980, a man had black lung disease and died in the house at the age of 42. Steve finds this out. Flash to Amy. She's like, there's an illness. She's like, it's like a man. He died. He was on an oxygen tank. He had like lung problems. And then after that, now it flashes to Amy sitting down with the artist. This is the part that bugs me a little bit. She describes what's going on to the artist, and the artist will draw it. And when the artist is done, and it's a different artist every episode.
Yeah.
So when the artist finishes drawing, she or he will turn the picture over to Amy and say, Amy, is this what you saw? And she's always got this fake ass look on her face and says, yes, and shakes her head.
Amy, was this what the drawing looked like?
Yes, that was it. That's exactly what I saw. And that just bugs me, because at some point there's gonna be an artist who's not picking up, and she's got to be like, yeah, no, that's not it. And, you know.
And something else about that too is her. Well, we'll go into her facial expressions in a minute, because we want to do talk about the side by side first.
Right. Well, that's after she sits down and do the sketch. That's when her and Steve will sit down with the family and do what in most of these ghost hunting shows are called the reveal.
Yes.
So
now
go ahead.
Just a reminder of the family that was involved. It was the grandma, the mom, and the daughter, right? If I remember correctly.
Sister, mom, and daughter.
Sister, mom, and daughter. Okay. And then the mom didn't have any illnesses until she came to this house, and then ended coming down with a bunch of things, including fibromyalgia.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, and during the reveal, this is when we'll talk about Amy's thing, because before I even go through my notes, whenever the people that live in the home are talking, Amy sits there, and it flashes to Amy. She sits there with this fake ass look on her face, going,
or
nodding her head. Yeah.
The one eye.
Yep. And it rubs me the wrong way. I mean, but you know, these are minor things to a show that we actually both liked.
Yeah.
So sit down at the reveal, and Steve tells the story about Carol and Arthur. That's the stepmom. Carol was the stepmom, and Arthur was the son that murdered her. And, you know, then Amy reveals that it starts out, Amy says, I feel like there was a woman murdered here. Then Steve like, well, it's interesting you say that. He tells a story about Carol and Arthur. And then Amy said, well, at one point too, when I was outside, I saw an older woman freaking out and saying something about a car accident. And she gave the date range again. And then Steve said, well, that's really interesting, because he explained the story about Randy in 1979 with the car accident. Then she goes into the skinwalker taking the souls. So this is the point where they reveal the sketch.
And he takes a manila folder, he takes his pen, and he breaks the seal.
Right.
And then he pulls it out. Amy, is this what you saw?
No, he usually pulls it out and goes, well, that's fucked up.
Right.
That would scare the shit out of me. And then he'll turn it to the family. And the interesting thing in this one, it was an image of the skinwalker crouching down and pulling something from somebody.
Yeah, but it was almost spider-like in the photo, because the girl was talking about being a giant spider creature. So what she drew matched similar to the dark object or the dark presence that the girl was talking about.
Yeah, because when they showed it to her, Yeah.
And then they let the little kid speak, and then we didn't care
Right.
anymore, and then we pushed her out of the way, and then we talked to the women.
Right. Basically, she said, yeah, that's exactly what she saw crouching by the couch. So Amy goes in and tells them about the skinwalker, what it does, and all that stuff, how it takes the souls, and then says it will also take on the form of past loved ones and stuff like that. And then the family says, "Oh yeah, I saw my grandpa." Da da da. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the interesting thing, one of the things I really really like about the show is at this point now, Steve says, "Okay, so I don't know what it's going to take if you guys want to stay here or move out, or I don't know what it's going to take to get rid of these things. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Amy." And then Amy will come out usually and say stuff like, "Oh, you need to get a medium." Basically, she said, "Burn this fucking house down."
Yeah, it's one of the only time I can remember seeing, I've seen quite a few of these episodes. It's the only time I told her that she said relocate.
Yep. She's like, "Get out, burn the house down." But like usually she'll say, "Get a male medium who's strong," and da da da, and then get a priest and da da da.
Find
But
a shaman, find this, get some sage,
yep,
bless the house and walk around,
yep,
but it was none. She did say, for the time being, find a shaman,
yep,
relocate.
yep, yeah, and then and then at the end, after they do all that, it says, "So and so are looking for a shaman." The activity continues.
Yeah. So that's now that's a running theme in a lot of these episodes, though, is they always do the updated thing in the text at the very end. You've seen that done in movies. You've seen it done in a lot of shows.
Yep.
Just to kind of give you an update on there. But in a lot of other ghost things where they're investigating somebody's house, like I'm not even gonna fucking try to remember that one that I'm thinking of. But anyway, they usually say, "Well, I have a shaman that I'm gonna bring you. I'm gonna get in touch with we have a priest that we know that's gonna come. We know a shaman, we know a medicine man, we know this one." They go find one. Go
Right.
find a voodoo prince. Where the fuck am I gonna find a voodoo prince? I don't know a
Right.
voodoo prince. I know it's a voodoo princess, but I don't know anybody from Haiti.
Right.
I live in Nebraska. Where the fuck am I gonna find somebody who practices voodoo?
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's funny. So that's pretty much it for episode 5. I can go on to episode 6, or we can jump ahead and you do one.
You know what? My notes are not as detailed as yours about the episodes. So,
All right, so we'll do episode 6 here. This one happens in Evans, Georgia, and I'm gonna have to remember it as I'm reading the notes because, like I said, it's been a week since I watched it. we've had some technical issues, folks. That's why we haven't recorded in a week.
Yeah.
So this one, Steve was called and told something in the house killed their son, and they're afraid it'll go after the daughter.
Yes. Okay, I do remember this episode now.
Yeah. So then Amy goes in to the house at night, and she meets a male spirit.
Yeah, this was Return of the Damned.
Yep. So she's met a male spirit, and the male spirit told her they saw all the shadow people when he died, and they're all from the devil. The spirit told her this.
Okay.
Flashback to Steve, he's learning more about the son who died. Apparently the son was an alcoholic, but once he moved into the house with them, because he was trying to get better, his health declined fast, and it wasn't long before he was gone. And they're always hearing voices and footsteps, seeing shadowy figures, and they were physically attacked. I believe somebody was scratched.
Yeah.
Like on the chest or something.
I remember that, but I don't remember who.
Right. So also found out that because Steve asked, "Well, have you tried to do anything to clean the house?" Well, yeah, we burned sage and all this stuff, and we had somebody come in. So now it goes back to Amy. She's like, "It's almost like I feel a force field, but people are still having experiences, and bad things are still happening." And she says, "I think the living opened a pathway to the dead."
Now, there's another episode where she talks specifically about they're not, she's not the first person they call.
Right.
That a bunch of, a lot of people, they'll bring in other mediums, they'll bring in other, people to bless the home and to do stuff. But sometimes it doesn't work. And
Right.
I don't remember what episode it was, but she was talking about it, and it wasn't this one, because I'd be talking in the present about this particular episode. But it was in another episode that I watched about how it actually made their situation worse. And that's kind of what happened in here.
Yeah.
Also. So they've run into this before. And so I guess word to the wise is
know what you're doing.
Know what you're doing. So all right. Now I dabble and have dabbled in chaos magic, and Craig has a little bit, but only do little bits that that you can take back upon yourself. Right. Don't try to change. I mean, this is a fucking warning and a half. Just because somebody's read a book or think they know about Wicca, or they've seen somebody else do this stuff, there are forces out there that will manipulate what you do into their gain. Right. And that's what happens in a lot of this shit, because you can fuck with yourself big time if you don't know what you're doing. And if you don't believe me, look at the last half of Aleister Crowley's life. Yeah. It was fucked up because he walked away from a 6-month ritual 3 days before he was done. Right. It sounds stupid. It really does sound stupid. But if you're going to sit there and tell me that you believe that one entity created the entire universe in 7 days, and on that 7th day he rested, and we still celebrate that 1 day of rest, then go fuck yourself, because this is the same shit. Right. It's a lot of people will mess with forces they don't understand. In this particular situation, it's exactly one of those situations where they didn't know what they were doing. Now, Craig talks about protecting his house with the onyx in the corners and stuff like that. Protection spells, perfect. But if you're trying for wealth, you're trying to harm somebody, you're trying to gain through magic like that, the rule of 3 applies to magic too. What comes to you comes back 3 times 3. Yep. So
well, and not only that, if you're trying to get a spirit or something like that out of your house and you don't know what you're doing, all you're going to do is speed its energy and piss it off, and the activity is going to jack up like 1,000-fold. Right. It's like turning your amp up to 11.
Exactly. Exactly. Remember this, it's hard to get rid of a demon if you don't know its name. Right. So if first of all, if you can't distinguish its name, you don't know enough about getting rid of it. Get somebody else. Right. Okay. So all right, back to
this. So
morning's over.
Going to Steve. Steve's talking to the lady at the house. She's like, "There's a heavy male presence, and it's following the lady around, and it scratched her on the abdomen." And then it flashes to Amy, and she's walking upstairs. She's like, "I feel like something just hit me in the back of the head." She's like, "This is a poltergeist." She's like, "I'm feeling like this is a poltergeist." Goes back to Steve talking to the lady, and she's like, she was walking upstairs and her hair was jerked back. She almost fell down the stairs. Mm. And then she's like in the main bedroom. There's shadow figures. They're sexually assaulted. Arms are pinned to her side as she's being fondled.
Jesus.
Flashes back to Amy. Amy says, "There's a living person and they're being attacked. It's like a wrestling match and they're having like hallucinations. And it's caused by a dead kid. It's not a poltergeist. It's a dead kid manipulating what people see, and he's always watching them." Flash back to Steve, and now he's doing his background research. Found out a man had a weird incident in his garage, cut his wrist, broke his foot. Amy's in the garage. She's like, "There's a male getting assaulted in here." I only have a little bit more notes because then I just kind of gave up on it.
Right on.
And then another woman was sexually assaulted and feeling nauseous, and goes back to Amy, and she's feeling nauseous. So then again, there you go. Steve goes, does the background on the house, does all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they do a sketch. Amy reveals that, you know, this is a little kid who's a bad kid, and he's fucking with people there. And he's just, he targets the women, you know, and he targets anybody in what he considers his areas.
Right.
You know? So I don't even remember the sketch from this one.
So the sketch from this one was, I do remember that. It was basically, it was a young man running from like a spirit coming at him.
Oh,
And then the mom was like, because they were wondering if one of the things they wondered if the spirit or the entity was their deceased brother.
Right.
That what he was what 41, 42, something like that.
Yeah.
He was a young man, died of alcoholism, and they thought maybe he was the one that was causing all this stuff. But then when they did the reveal, or no, what they did was they showed the picture. They showed the son's picture, and it's like, Amy, is this the one you've seen? And she's like, no. And they're like, oh, phew, that because they were worried that it was him that was doing the haunting. But
right.
then when she revealed her sketch, they looked at it and they saw that the dude running from the spirit that was being chased looked like the son was being chased by the little boy spirit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then they were scared.
Right. And this is another one where they said you need to get a male medium to come in and, you know, convince the boy to leave and take on his energy, and then he can get him out and push him on, and then you'll stop feeling sick, your health will get better, and blah 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 blah.
Right. Yeah.
And then she went.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Which it does bother me. Now, let's talk about the entities that were in this one, because at first she came in right off the bat, bam, this is a poltergeist. Now, we've talked about ghosts, we've talked about specters and everything. Poltergeists are, you know, basically it's two German words put together, which means noisy spirit.
Right.
And what they're almost like the gremlins of the ghost world. They're the ones that make noises, levitate stuff, open and slam doors, and that's what they're there to do, is just to fuck with you.
Yeah.
And so that's what she said. But then when it started, when she's talking about the boy, it almost makes it seem like the boy is a low-level demon.
Yeah.
You know, because what the boy was doing by actually assaulting people, specifically, it's, you know, sexually assaulting women, that's not something a poltergeist would do.
No.
They may throw something at him and, you know, push him down a flight of stairs, you know, something like that. But a poltergeist isn't going to do that. So I'm thinking that the little boy was actually more of a demon.
And the whole poltergeist thing, this is my belief on it. 9 out of 10 cases where it's considered to be a poltergeist there's usually a kid that lives in the house with latent telekinetic or psychic powers that are actually causing this shit because they don't know how to handle it.
That's a good point.
You know, and like in some of these cases, she went to the house and said, "Oh, well, you know, you're sensitive and you're sensitive," and they're like, "No, we're not. No, you are. You're causing this." You know, so get somebody to come in and help her out, help her learn how to control her shit.
Yeah,
but
right.
Yeah, so when someone says poltergeist, that's where I automatically always go. Is there a kid living in this house? You know, so I'm not big on the poltergeist thing. I think that's more human. But when it comes down to the difference between a spirit and a demon, a spirit can take, like, you know, a kitchen chair and like push it a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, and that's about as strong as it can do. A demon can pick up your refrigerator and throw it from Michigan to Texas.
Exactly.
You know, usually these poltergeist activities where all the chairs and shit are stacked up in the kitchen, like you've seen that in I don't know how many movies.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually, you know, like I said, a kid's living in a home, latent psychic telekinetic powers, doesn't know how to use them. and that's how they manifest.
Right.
So, yeah, so that's episode 6, folks.
Right. So, okay. So I'm actually just kind of looking at the thing here. Apparently, I didn't watch episode 7. I watched 8 and 9.
Well, then do 8 and 9.
So okay. 9 was an episode called "The Devil Inside." All right.
Not in excess.
Not this one. The NXS song was actually probably a little bit more interesting.
Right.
That's not true. Okay. So what it was a woman owned this home, and she lived there with her sister, who was a cancer survivor, and then her 2 daughters. Okay,
right.
The cancer survivor's 2 daughters. Now, when as soon as they moved in, there was weird shit that started happening, and like things are moving, things are growling. This is the episode I was talking about. They're hearing scratching all the time, and the home is outside. Or I mean,
Right.
of course it's outside. The home is out in the woods. Okay, so the first thing Steve does is say, "Look, we got to get in an exterminator because are you sure it's not critters in your crawl space?" And they're like, "No, it's not critters." So they bring in the exterminator. No signs of anything other than mice. Okay. Then the youngest daughter was talking about in the corner of the room, but Steve's like, "That's an outside wall. Are you sure it's not a tree banging up against it? Somebody beating on the outside of it?" "Oh no, it sounds like it's coming from the inside." Now, what they kept talking about their grandpa who had died in this home years before. And so they thought, well, maybe it's grandpa just walking by, because they kept seeing a dark shadow wherever they want. And when Amy first walks in the home, she's like, there's a definite male presence in this house.
Yeah.
And then she walks around a little bit, and then she walks into so in the home was the sister who owned the home. It's her bedroom. Then there was another bedroom where the sister who was the cancer survivor. Then there was a third bedroom where the 2 other daughters now were staying. And she got to that room, and she's like, "Whoa, no!" And then she walked out of the room.
Yeah.
And when she's like, "There are gargoyles in this room," and her husband's like, with the camera, like, "Did you just fucking say gargoyles?" Essentially, that's what he did. He gave her this look like, "What?"
Yeah.
So, now they had this long, talk with him, and Steve was like, "So we realize that you guys can't go anywhere, but what do you want?" And the 2 daughters were like, "I would rather be homeless than live in this house another minute."
Right.
So they do their whole thing, and then Amy sits down with them, and Steve sits down when they do the reveal. And when they go to pull out the sketch, they set it down in front of them, and when they look at it, it looks like a bunch of fucking little demons looking over the footboard of the bed at the youngest daughter.
Oh, Jesus.
And her response was, "Get this girl out of here." And the youngest one wasn't in the reveal. It was just the older daughter, and then the 2 sisters. So they didn't scare the shit out of the little girl, but they're like, "Get her out of here because she will be harmed."
Oh, sorry. I just Googled, is Amy from Deadfiles a fake? And of course, I knew I'd find something.
Uh-huh.
This is like 5 reasons why Deadfiles is completely fake. Number 1, no evidence. Okay. They go through and they're not looking for evidence. But in some, there was evidence. There was pictures of the scratches, the video of the drawer opening.
Right.
Then there's like number 2 is signs of staging. I didn't see any signs of staging. Did you?
No, I've never. Well, yeah, there is. Of course, there's. I'm going to be devil's advocate on that one. For in their favor, yes, there's signs of staging because the husband goes in and takes all the pictures off the wall.
Yeah. Yeah, true. And then they say superficial revelations. She's pretty fucking accurate.
I would say it's not like Long Island Medium or that little Tyler Celebrity Medium where they're obviously cold reading.
Right. And then the next one is people want to be haunted. Yeah, no, we don't.
No. Well, so the families that they get on here, either there's really great casting to find actors to play the entire family,
right,
to get that kind of heartfelt responses. There are some heartfelt responses on these things that are better than Academy Award-winning movies.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, another thing, I mean, like Amy's husband was like a pro athlete, I want to say at some point. Hold on, I'm gonna look it up. But like, yeah, Matthew Anderson is her husband, and he, dun, 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 I want to say he was like a swimmer or something like that. He was some sort of athlete, and then he did this after that. But I mean, he's pretty much just walking around, you know, going, like you said, did you fucking say gargoyles? You know,
right?
For the most part, he's quiet and doesn't. And every once in a while, he'll ask a question just to get her to reveal a little bit more.
And normally when he does ask a question, he's actually trying to solicit more detail,
right?
Clarification. And
exactly.
I've never heard him actually say anything that could inspire her to change or to
right.
alter her what she's talking about. Like
Yeah,
he's prompting her.
Well,
I've
and
never
they're
heard
divorced
any of that
now.
evidence.
They're divorced now too.
Really?
Yeah. That's what I just found out.
Apparently, she didn't see that coming.
Ta-da.
Sorry, I couldn't resist that one.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, and you know, I can play devil's advocate and go, you know, they obviously have to talk in order for them to get their information so similar. But it is possible that she could be a true psychic and is picking all this shit up because that latent energy stays. I mean, my last house that I owned, there was some energy that had stayed there that needed to move on.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good point. So I bought a home that had some bad energy in it. Now, the home that I had bought, there were 3 homes side by side. Well, there's 2 homes and a duplex. So there was the home to the right of me. They used to manufacture crystal meth in the basement. Guy didn't know that when he bought it, but that's true. Found out that they used to sell it in the home that I bought. Didn't know that when I bought it. Found out afterwards. And in the duplex, that's where they did it.
Oh, Jesus.
So there was a lot of negative energy within that block. And there was a lot of transition that happened in my life in that home.
Right.
You know, my first divorce happened in that home. There was, you know, I took on some weird shit that went on in my life. You know, I changed as a person while I lived there. And in a lot of ways, not for the better. And that affects you. And the other episode I was going to talk about, but I'll just briefly synopsis it because we can go on and talk about more of the overall picture of ghost shows now instead of just giving rundowns. But the big thing that happened in that second episode that I watched was there was the grandmother that died that was a very, very evil person in real life.
Yeah.
And they showed pictures of her husband before he died in a year later, or when they first bought the home and a year later. And he looked like he aged about 65 years in 1 year. And then he ended up hanging himself. Or no, he shot himself. Yeah, he ended up shooting himself.
Right. Yeah, I mean, same thing in my last house and how bad it was. I mean, I got divorced in that house. I went through some really dark stages in that house. And then when I moved to Muskegon, I moved into a worse house, and things got really bad until I got away from it, and I moved up to Blanchard into another bad house, and I only spent 2 nights there, and I couldn't spend another night there.
Oh.
And then moved back into my dad's, and since then I got back into the cleansing energies and stuff like that, and turned my life back around. But sometimes we go through bad spells in our lives and we don't necessarily know why. Sometimes you need to look at your environment.
Yes. And there's, like we were talking before, there's a lot of bad shit that can happen if you really get into magic.
Right.
But there's a lot of simple protection things that you can do. We've talked about them, especially in our crystal episode. You went off on a whole bunch of things that you can do about how you have to cleanse a crystal, how you place a crystal, the little ritual you do when you do that. Go watch our episode to see how Craig did. Cameo by my dog Ripley.
Right. But and the thing is though is you also have to be careful with crystals because they can have bad energy too.
Right. And would you recommend cleansing a crystal when you first get it?
Oh, definitely.
See, there you go. So
because you don't know who touched that crystal before you, and they could have put something in it. And as I said in that episode, you don't choose the crystal chooses you.
Oh, there you go. See, these are things that you don't think about, people don't understand. There's a lot of energy, there's a lot of negative energy, there's a lot of influence that you can have and has on you from your surroundings, from things that you don't even understand, that I don't understand. Right. But if you're having a downturn, I implore you to do one thing first. Before you run off to your doctor and try to find some kind of pharmaceutical to be on, look up some home cleansing rituals, like doing sage, placing of protective crystals in the corners of your home. There's simple things that you can do that won't backfire on you.
Right.
That just try them.
Right. First. But if you do burn the sage, make sure you find the instructions to do them exactly the way it says to do it in the instructions.
Right. Don't just grab it and run around your house like it's a goddamn Olympic torch.
Right. Because if you do it the wrong way, you're just trapping the stuff in there deeper with you.
Right. Right.
So, yeah. But yeah, I mean,
and I'm not saying don't get help if you're depressed, because depression is a serious, serious issue.
Right.
But if you're honestly seriously depressed, go fucking get a doctor. But if you're just having a couple of weeks that you don't feel right, it's worth a shot. It doesn't cost much.
Right. And if you're hearing weird shit in your house and you're a skeptic and don't believe in that shit and you're blowing it off, but then all of a sudden you start noticing your mood and stuff like that change. And the thing is, it's a subtle change. You will not know it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that's just, like one day you're like, ah, next day you're like, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
Right.
No, it's a gradual decline.
Yeah.
And you won't even notice it happening, and then it'll become your new norm, and you get used to it so fast that it's now your comfort zone that you don't even think about it.
Right. It'll start off something as innocuous as like, that's weird. Her toothbrush is touching against mine. Next day it's like, damn, why is her toothbrush touching mine? Next day, motherfucker, why your toothbrush touching mine? Then the third day, you're blowing up at her because she didn't take the trash out in time.
Right. And then on the 5th day, you're setting your toothbrush on fire.
Exactly. And it's subtle, it's gradual, but it builds up.
Right.
And
yep.
So that's the other thing, flip that around. It could be your significant other that's getting that way. If you see their mood suddenly, gradually change, you might want to try it.
Yep.
Because you can't tell them to go to the doctor. Hey, you for your fucking mood swings, can you go to the fucking doctor, please, and get on some pills? That doesn't really work. So try this first.
Right. Right. And, like I said, go back, watch our Crystal episode. There's a lot of great information in that. Go back and look at our Laws of Attraction episodes. Lots of great information in that. And all that stuff can help you because, the positive energy that you have, it's contagious.
Yes. And like we've said thousands of times on this show, like attracts like. If you are only thinking about negative energy, you're only going to notice negative things. It doesn't mean that more negative things are happening to you. It's just they affect you more.
Right.
And if you are, you have a positive mindset, then you start noticing all the positive things, and then the little negative things are little negative things, and they don't affect you as well.
Right. Right. So basically, I mean, we could probably go on and talk about this forever, but this episode in summation was about the show that was on the Travel Channel for a while. I know it had at least 8 seasons.
I think it's 12 total. 12 total seasons so far. If it's still on, I don't even know if it's still new episodes come out or not.
I have no idea. But yeah, it's called the Deadfiles. Check it out, and try to do it with an open mind, but but open mind with a little bit of skepticism isn't bad.
Yes.
Because we watch all these paranormal shows and we're like, well, that's bullshit. Well, that's bullshit. Well, that's obviously got a string attached to it and it was just yanked across the room.
Right. Or the noise happened when you just went upstairs and it just happened downstairs and nobody had any video of it, even though you got 1,000 fucking cameras in the house.
Right. Right.
It's Johnny banging on the floor. Or the thing that I like about this show, though, I'll give it its praise for this. Amy doesn't use any of those bullshit mumbo jumbo ghost hunter like spirit boxes and other electromagnetic resonance channel flux capacitors and shit. She doesn't use any of those gimmicky noise making clicker clackers that say boobs. When you look at it, it's like, well, they said boobs, I like them too.
Yeah, and it's not like she says, hey, I'll take care of this for you, because she knows her capabilities.
Right. She knows how to, she does the diagnosis, somebody else does the work.
Right. Right. It's kind of like going to the doctor. Oh, your arm's broke. I'm going to send you to the orthopedic surgeon.
Yeah.
That's what
I'm a foot guy. I'm not touching your heart.
Right. So we talked about the Deadfiles. We talked about a couple of episodes. It was pretty cool. We all had a little bit of fun.
Good, we got some ludes, and we sorry, I just love that chick that's from Up in Smoke.
Right. I got
I don't got any ludes. I got some, but I don't have enough.
No, man, Dave's not here.
Right.
No, it's this day. Yeah, so I want to put this out there. I want to apologize for not doing our holiday episode 4 days ago on 420.
Oh, right.
I did celebrate, but
celebrate. So here's one for you. So for our 420 fans out there, so on 420 of 2020 at 420 there were 420s.
Nice. Oh, that's funny.
I didn't make that up. I saw it somewhere else, but I thought it was pretty damn cool.
That is cool. So folks, be good to each other.
Yeah.
There's enough negative shit going on in our world right now. Let's all take a minute before we interact with other people and realize these people are just as stressed out and scared as you are.
That's right.
So let's have some compassion for each other.
And on that note, I'm going to say, insert positivity here.
Yes. Peace out. Love you guys.